The containment of China, the choking of China, is common ground for all of them. They simply disagree on how to do it best, whether to do it through the war in Ukraine or, as Trump suggests, end the war in Ukraine and concentrate on China. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for this opportunity to have an intimate, closed-door discussion so that we can speak freely. So I'm going to cut to the chase because my topic, I think, is the most pressing issue for humanity at the moment. The new Cold War that the United States unleashed against China. This is not a shared responsibility. It is a decision by Washington, D.C. to unleash a Cold War against China. It started with Donald Trump. It was already in the making from the Obama administration, but it has been reinforced exponentially under Joe Biden. And the reason why I'm saying that this is the most pressing issue for humanity is because we are being quick-marched towards the precipice of a nuclear confrontation that the United States authorities knowingly are making a real possibility. And the question is why? The first question. And once we go through the analysis, then of course the second question, and of equal importance, is so what do we do about it? I enjoy very much placing American and British in particular journalists who are part of this propaganda machine, Financial Times, Guardian, Washington Post, placing them in a difficult position with a very simple question. Why? Why is the United States declaring essentially a new Cold War against China? And the first word that comes out of their mouth is Taiwan. And I said to them, what about Taiwan? They said, well, the Chinese want to take it over. Well, I said, they always wanted to take it over. What's new? I mean, it was always the position of Beijing that Taiwan is a province of China. And at some point, they will have to fall under the fold, like Hong Kong did. Didn't Richard Nixon know that in 1971 when he was visiting Beijing, making friends with China? Didn't Clinton know that when he was inducting China into the World Trade Organization? Why wasn't Taiwan a problem then? What has changed now? They look at me, well, China is spying on us. The NSA is spying on you. The CIA, I have, and that is the truth, and the line knows this, we have a 3-point NSA tap on me, my phone. That is, 3 points means that if I talk to you, you're spied on. If you talk to your wife is spied on. If your wife talks to your child, your child. So I know that, they've told me that. So I don't believe the Chinese are as good as the NSA at spying. I mean, the NSA was listening in to Chancellor Angela Merkel. This was revealed. And then, when Angela Merkel was told that, immediately she said, okay, do you want me to speak louder so you can hear me better? So it wasn't a problem, right? Now suddenly, that China is developing surveillance, and I hope China is developing surveillance methods, because, if you're being spied on, you need to spy back on them. It's the only way. One of my great friends, and I'm very proud of that may shock some of you, is Julian Assange of WikiLeaks. And Julian Assange, a very brave man, said to me once that, what do you do with Big Brother? How do you stop Big Brother? Well, what you do is you develop the technology so that you spy on him while he's spying on you. So counter-surveillance is the only way of dealing with surveillance, so that they know that you know that they know. This is essential for maintaining any degree of autonomy. So I hope China is developing its capacity to counter the surveillance of the NSA. And it's a joke. I mean, the people in the NSA are laughing their heads off when they hear journalists from the Wall Street Journal saying that the reason for the new Cold War is that China is spying on the Americans. And then I hear other idiotic answers like, The Chinese are building naval vessels, they are projecting naval power. Well, I will believe this. I mean, of course, you're building naval vessels. You're expanding your economy, you're expanding your capacity to project your own power. That is essential. That's what every country must do if it respects its own interests. But I'm going to be worried about Chinese imperialism when I see Chinese vessels outside San Diego and Los Angeles and Chinese army bases next to El Paso on the US-Mexican border. Until we see that, it is ludicrous. You just look at the map of the Pacific and you see American bases everywhere creating choke points for China. And this is their official policy for 40 years. And they have the audacity to say that China is a threat because China is... Anyway, enough time wasted on these non-explanations of the new Cold War. Now, you may have heard of, I won't mention him yet. The more sophisticated analysts in the United States would invoke the so-called Thucydides trap or Thucydides curse. That, to put it in very vulgar terms, if you live in an anarchic world, if you are a child, a boy, and you go to school, a very rough school, and there are lots of bullies, you should be the biggest and nastiest bully. That is the cynical, realist school of thought of American geopolitics, that America, in this anarchic world, because they don't really believe in God, they don't believe there is a God that will help them, they think that they must be the nastiest, biggest bully in the world in order to defend themselves. Their survival as a nation and their prosperity will depend on their capacity to bully everybody else and from preventing anyone who is getting too big for their boots to become an equally sized bully. And they will say to you that they were bullies around the world, like, for instance, Imperial Japan, Imperial Germany, the Soviet Union, and what the United States have succeeded in doing is effectively eliminating them, annihilating them, getting them out of the way. And that now China is rising, China is next. And therefore that explains the new Cold War. Now there's no doubt that the deep state in the United States, and make no mistake, the United States is not a democracy, it's an oligarchy with elections that are providing the legitimacy for this one-party state to continue to exist. And when I say a one-party state, I mean one-party state. Take, for instance, Victoria Nuland. You may be familiar with this diplomat of the Washington establishment. Victoria Nuland worked for Bill Clinton. She worked for George W. Bush. She worked under Clinton. She worked under Trump. And no doubt she was going to work again for whoever wins in November. Victoria Nuland is an example of the single state, deep state of the United States. Now, that deep state, single party establishment in the United States is split along the line of two different conflicting views, neither of which is good news for China. There is the more intelligent, nuanced line of thinking. That which in academia is represented by that very intelligent man from the University of Chicago, John Mearsheimer. The view is this: